Okay, by now I'm sure you guys know about Lose Your Mind. Lose Your Mind used to be a common talent, which made it so that you gain insanity faster, but the more insane that you are, the more damage you deal. So at max insanity, Lose Your Mind used to make you deal double damage. Lose Your Mind, like most other damage multiplying talents, were really overpowered. Lose Your Mind was 2 times damage compared to something like Overflowing Dam's 15%. Yes, you'd have to be insane to get the advantage and you'd scratch yourself, but there was a card which makes you take like little to no damage from insanity. So essentially you could double your damage with a common card for basically no downside. It's fair to say that Lose Your Mind was probably the best common card in the game. However, if you think that the purpose of this video was for me to complain about Lose Your Mind, well, you'd be half correct. Lose Your Mind is broken. After the majority of the player base figured out how OP Lose Your Mind actually was, people started abusing it, and the developers quickly nerfed it. Lose Your Mind is now a rare card instead of a common, and the max damage that you can do is 50% extra. Instead of going insane 2 times fast, you go insane 1.5 times fast. Okay, so Lose Your Mind was nerfed as it should have been, so why am I making this video? Do I think the card is still OP and it needs more nerfs? Maybe, but that's not the reason why I'm making this video. You see, Lose Your Mind is broken, but not in the sense that it's OP. I mean, it may be OP, but that's not what I mean by broken. Lose Your Mind is literally unobtainable. It used to be a card that you could get from having low amounts of willpower, but when they nerfed the card, they somehow changed the requirements for the card, and it's bugged currently so that it's literally impossible to get. This first came to my attention when my friend Cabbage Lord was actually trying to make a build, and one of the main cards that he was trying to get was Lose Your Mind, and he would put 50 points into willpower all the time, and he wouldn't get it a single time during trials. He did the trials for 2 days straight and tried lots of different stat combinations, sometimes putting all his points into willpower, and he still didn't get the card. I looked around to see if this was just a bug on his end, or maybe you needed a higher level in order to get the card. However, everyone in the Deepwoken Discord who's been trying to make a willpower build recently have been saying the same thing, that the card is unobtainable. We have people wiping their builds and trying loads of weird stat combinations to try and get this card, but it's literally not helping at all. No one is getting Lose Your Mind. Right now, the only people who have Lose Your Mind are the people who had the card before the updates. This was definitely not intentionally removed from the game, or they would have mentioned it in the update logs instead of saying that they changed it to rare and balanced the card. So what I think happened was that they tried to increase the willpower requirement for Lose Your Mind when they did the updates, and instead of making it like 30, they probably made it like 300, and now it's unobtainable. So what is the point that I'm trying to make? Do I care that much about Lose Your Mind that I want to make a dedicated video about it? No, not really. I don't even use willpower builds. My concern here is that this kind of thing happens all the time with Deepwoken. Deepwoken developers will work on a new update, and instead of releasing it to the testers for a day of testing so that they can iron out any bugs, they just release it to the public immediately, presumably without any vigorous testing, and they just try and hope that there are no bugs. Also, when they do balancing updates, or when they add new mantras, these new mantras will be super jacked up, and they'll be OP like Shadow Seekers. They'll be affected way too much by modifiers. And people on release, when they see these new updates, they're immediately like, how the hell does something like this get through testing? And the answer is it doesn't. It doesn't get tested enough. The developers need to allow the Wave 1 testers, or at least the Wave 0 testers, to test these updates out, so that we don't have to play through these bugs when they're easily preventable. I get that there's the concern that, oh, we may leak it to the public, but you can just ban the testers who do that. That's not really a problem. There isn't any incentive for someone to leak these updates. That doesn't really do anything for us. And even if you don't feel comfortable doing that, then you should at least allow the super secret, the trusted testers, like all the contributors and the trusted figures in the community, allow them to be the ones to do the testing. It's better than having no testing at all. Having testing will allow players to avoid situational bugs like these, and stuff like the Sharko rumbling would never have happened if anyone tested the update. The mantra Stormblades actually got a supposed mantra modifier, and I tried every single spark, and the only one that did anything which granted a mantra was Tornado Sparks. And I was like, great, I got a modified mantra. I wonder what it does. And so I used the move, and it has no effect. Like, it's the exact same thing. So I think to myself, Okay, well, if I hit a player or a guard with it, it must do something different. Like, it will change the effect of the move. And so I go up to an NPC, and I use the move, and it does nothing. I wasted like a dozen sparks that I grinded from Arena, because I wanted to be one of the first people to discover what this spark does, and the spark does nothing, presumably because it didn't get tested, so no one realized it was bugged. To this day, it still has not been fixed, and the developers have not acknowledged that this modifier is broken, and so is Lose Your Mind. It is a bit of extra work for them to go in and fix these things, but that is why you do testing before the update releases, so that you have the peace of mind that you know that whenever you release the update, it's going to be nearly bug-free. The most extreme example of something that should never have been in game was the Shaco rumbling. This was something that was really easily avoidable, because it really was just common sense. Of course, when you add a way to spawn in monsters, you should test what happens if you use lots of them at the same time. That really is just common sense. Well, as a result of the Shaco rumbling, lots of people died and their accounts got wiped, and a lot of them had to get restores, which, well, took mods lots of time, and took the players lots of time to get restored. Players were set back by a massive inconvenience because of the fact that it simply was not tested. If this was tested, then this massive event would not have happened, and people would have been fine, their accounts wouldn't have been wiped. I'm sure there were many accounts that died from this event, but were not recording so that they could not get a restore. This event, the Shaco rumbling, was a massive setback, and the developers compensated the players by giving them 2 times chest sizes. It just goes to show the scary situations that can happen when you don't test updates. I can think of a situation where this will be even more extreme. For example, when the layer 2 update comes, and people will be in the depths and they'll be, like, at risk of wiping, what if there's a bug that gets you killed, and loads of people die to this, and, well, now you have a restore ticket overflow, and lots of people wiping unfairly. It just shows the importance of testing updates before they're published, because a lot of this stuff is really avoidable, and it doesn't need to be fixed after the fact, it can be fixed before it even comes into play. This would save the developers a lot of time. Instead of reworking things that they've already added to the game, they can just change them while they're being made. And it will also save the players a lot of hassle, because right now, people who like willpower builds and trying to go for Lose Your Mind basically just cannot play the game at all, because they can't get the card. So it saves developers time, and it makes the players more happy. What is the reason to not add testing? It does not make any sense to me. I hope that they consider this in the future when adding new updates. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.